All right, sister, buckle up because this is the episode that is chock full and one you're not going to want to miss. In this episode, you're going to talk about why the average woman gains 1.5 pounds per year during her adult life, enough to pack on 40 plus pounds by the time she's in her 50s, but it doesn't have to be that way. We're going to talk about not enoughness and how this impacts our hormones and what to do about it, and actionable steps to support and rev up your metabolism. Let's dive in.
What's up, sister? Welcome back to the Period Whisperer podcast, the show helping perimenopause and menopause women de-stress your body and decode what it's saying to you so you can own your own health, energy, and weight loss again. If you're new, I'm so happy you're here. I'm Bria. I'm your host, a recovering people pleaser and hustle addict turned functional and holistic hormone specialist. Let's lean in and learn what your body is saying to you.
Hey there, sister. I am so glad you're here and super excited to share this interview with you. We have women's weight release expert and body love coach, integrative nutrition health coach, and certified personal trainer, yoga instructor, podcast host, speaker, single mom, and cancer survivor, Sarah Haas, who's joining me on the pod here to share some inspirational and actionable tips to help women in midlife rev up their metabolism, no matter how busy they are. She's a single mom, working full-time, and had 20 rounds of chemotherapy, which left her bone tired. She has some amazing tips to share from the other side of rebuilding herself, rebuilding her health, and I know you're going to love it and find some inspiration in here. Okay, let's get to it. Well, hey there, sisters. Welcome back to the Period Whisperer podcast. And we have such a great guest, as you heard through the intro today, Sarah Haas. I am so happy that you are here. You're such a light and have so much expertise in this area. And I love your body, your Boss Body podcast. So let's start with you. Welcome first. Welcome here.
Thank you so much, Bria. It is such a pleasure to be here. I love having these conversations that can help women feel better. So I'm thrilled to be here.
I know, and you do that so well in your podcast. And I think you're right. It's the more we can normalize this, like the real things that work and what we're going through, it just makes it an easier time, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, we need the information and it's not out there enough.
No.
And so that's why I'm so glad there's people like you out there talking about it, because women are suffering and we're dealing with these real symptoms and changes and issues and whatever you want to call it. And it's nice to know we're not alone, and it's nice to know there are things we can do.
Totally. And I think, you and I are examples that we don't have to suffer. And I mean, I think you're amazing, but we're not. There's nothing unique about us. We're not special. Anyone can implement these things and start to feel better, can't they?
Right. You just have to have the information. You have to know what's going on and then have the tools to deal with it.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's get into a little bit about you. I always like to hear, about your story because you've got a good one, and even just how you became passionate about women's health and body love.
Absolutely. Well, my foray into this career happened about 12 years ago. I was in graphic design formally, and marketing and public relations and a series of other things, completely different career. And when my son, who is 18 now, was 6, he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes.
Oh.
So I am, a youngish mom, and suddenly this just rocked our world. It came out of nowhere. I had no clue even what type 1 diabetes meant. You hear about it, and the thing about type 1 is it's not related to your lifestyle. You can't cause it and you can't cure it. So once you're diagnosed, it's lifetime.
Yeah.
It's something you're going to be dealing with for a lifetime. But the awesome thing is it's manageable. So it's not like they're just saying, oh, you're just going to go downhill from here. Sorry. There's so many things you can do to take care of your health and to just live a very normal, healthy life. So I threw myself in. I was all in. Mama Bear took over. I was like, all right, this is my new job right now, is to figure out how to take care of him, how to keep him healthy and safe. And so I started learning. I started reading. I started listening to master classes. I started going to all kinds of conferences and summits, not just about diabetes, but about nutrition. And I started learning so much, and it was making my son healthier, but also our whole family and myself. I started having more energy. We all sort of just got more active and felt better in general. And the thing was, it was so practical what we were doing. It wasn't like we said, "Oh, you can never have sugar again." I mean, I have at that time a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. So you're not just going to suddenly go, "Oh, guess what? We're just eating quote diet food now from here on out." That's not realistic.
Yeah.
And so I figured out a system that worked in my busy life as a busy full-time working mom, and that was kid friendly. So it worked for our whole family. And a lot of other moms and friends started asking me about it. How did you do this? What do you guys drink at home? Do kids eat for snacks? What do you do? How do you find time to eat well and all that kind of thing? How do you balance it with your life? And I started thinking, you know what? This is a desperate need for women out there. And this is my calling. And so I went back to school and became an integrative nutrition health coach. I was already a personal trainer at the time and taught fitness classes, and it really all just came together. And so that's what brought me into the work that I do, and realizing that it's such a need for women out there. And it was a need that I knew I could fill in a way that was doable.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a big deal, right? Like you have a 6-year-old going through this. It's not like you can leave it up to them. I mean, you do need to sort of step in and understand. And how can I ask how old you were at that time?
Yes, I was in my early 30s,
Early
and
30s.
I'm in my early 50s now. So, well, let's see, mid to late 30s, I guess. I was in my early 30s when I had my kids, and they were 6 and 8 at the time. So, I'm into my 30s. I'm like everybody trying to lose that baby weight still 6 to 8 years later, and not feeling my best. I was tired all the time. I always say that I was holding myself up with dry shampoo and Diet Coke. I was just getting through my day, just tired and just always like by the skin of my teeth, just, trying to survive my day. And I just realized so much about how nutrition gives you energy and how stress relief is so important.
Uh-huh.
And that if you're going to take care of others, you have to take care of yourself.
Oh,
And
yeah.
all that came into play about 4 years ago because I was diagnosed with breast cancer in my late 40s. So I was 47 actually at the time. So yeah, that was a whole new curveball that life threw me. And being in the wellness industry and exercising all the time and knowing that I'm eating well, I never imagined it. That was the last thing I ever imagined I would have to deal with.
Yeah.
And so I'm a single mom. And at this point, I have 2 teenagers. I'm working full time. I get this diagnosis, and I had 20 rounds of chemotherapy, 25 rounds of radiation, a
Oh,
double mastectomy, and 3 follow-up surgeries.
20 rounds. Oh my gosh, Sarah, that's massive.
20 rounds. Now, all of them weren't quite the same. The first 6 were the really brutal ones, but then I had to continue with a different type of medicine throughout the rest of that year. So it was one whole year of chemotherapy every 3 weeks. And it was brutal. It knocked me on my butt. Like some days it was all I could do to just take a little stroll, like maybe out to the mailbox and back. I tried to do whatever I could movement wise, but my energy, I mean, that was the biggest thing. It was just bone tired. And then all the other horrible things. I lost my hair, it was hard to eat. So it was hard to take care of my nutrition. And the thing is, well, I've been cancer free now for 4 years, first of all.
That's amazing.
Yes, yes. So I'm very happy. And I was able to rebuild myself. I mean, it pretty much like my muscle mass was gone, my strength was gone, my stamina was gone, my nutrition, because I was just eating what I could, what I felt like eating. And so I had to rebuild myself from the ground up. And I am back. Sarah 2.0 is in the house, fully recovered, fully grew my hair back. Exercising strong, and it was just further testament to me that if you have to have your health and that anyone can do it. It doesn't matter where you're starting from.
I love that you say that because just take us back for a minute because I find this story so fascinating. So you were 47 when you were diagnosed. How are you feeling for I mean, and the years before you'd obviously as a trainer, as someone who like taught fitness classes, you'd kind of really leaned into the nutrition piece. How were you feeling in your body leading up to that diagnosis?
I was feeling great.
Because you're in
I
those
was,
you talked about with
yes,
perimenopause. So you were feeling great, no
I
issues.
was, I was in, I guess perimenopause, but it was not, I wasn't quite there yet. I was having occasional night sweats, and that's it. I had regular periods. I wasn't having hot flashes, everything felt good. But after my first round of chemotherapy, it immediately put me into menopause, full on. I never had another period once I had that first round of chemotherapy.
Wiped out your hormones.
Yes. And now I'm on a hormone blocker medication so that because the cancer I had was estrogen positive and progesterone positive. So I have to be really careful with my hormones now. And they're pretty much wanting to keep them suppressed, like now and forever.
Yeah.
And so that's been a struggle for sure. So I understand. I understand the hot flashes and the night sweats and the memory loss and the anxiety. And all of that just came on like a brick wall, boom, here you go, menopause.
Yeah. So you're familiar then. You're familiar with obviously what it's like to navigate that. And how much do you think, your efforts, your health efforts that kind of got you into that really holistic, great shape from call it 36 to 46? How much do you think that played a role in your ability to handle all of that with your surgeries, with your chemotherapy, and also come out in a place where you could rebuild?
Yeah. And that's the thing. Because I went in so strong, I bounced back from all of it. And let me tell you, they want to hit that cancer hard, but it doesn't just hit the cancer hard, it hits your entire body hard, your whole system. And not to mention the surgeries, which really, your immune system is down, then your body is having to deal with all these surgeries. And it's a lot. It's a lot. And I would see a lot of people when I was getting chemotherapy, I would see others in there being told by their doctor, we can't give you your chemotherapy today because your system has gotten too weakened from previous treatments to withstand it again now. And so that would delay their treatment, which is not ideal. Yeah. And I never had a single delay. I never had a single complication. A lot of people develop kind of secondary issues because of everything your body is being hit with. I healed from my surgeries. I was, it was kind of, okay, I love this song. I get knocked down, then I get up again. Then you're never going to get me down. That's my motto. Because I was like, all right, bring it. Cancer, you're done. You're out of here. Hit me with everything. And then I'm going to do whatever I need to do to keep my body strong through it all. And that was just, for me, it empowered my work with other women so much because I realized you don't know what life's going to hit you with. I mean, God forbid it's cancer. I would never wish that on anyone else. But it could be anything. It could be COVID. It could be some infection. You don't know. It
Well, it
could
could be a
be
really massively stressful time that knocks us flat. And if our vital reserve, if that health isn't where we want it to be, then we're compromised, aren't we?
We are, absolutely. I mean, it could be someone else that you love or care about that needs taking care of. And you have to have that extra energy. You have to feel good because if you aren't taking care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of others. You're going to be less productive at work. You're going to be less present with your loved ones because you're going to be always tired and run down. It's going to affect your relationships. So, health is the foundation that ripples out into the rest of your life.
Yeah. And doesn't it very much feel like this is, I always feel like, you know, 35 to 55, like this is our window where I think the universe kind of comes in and is like, hey, now's the time. Now's the time for you to stop putting everyone ahead of you. And the beauty of that, I always think, Sarah, is that because our hormones are starting to decrease, like we're hormonally able to no longer put everyone ahead of us anymore. Like those are there for us to make sure the world goes round. But now that's disappearing a bit, now that that's going down, this is our time. So I think it's incredible the message you share and how you've been able to help women, how you continue to help women. So for any of our sisters listening who are going through something like that, you now know who to follow and who to reach out to. And for those of you sisters who are listening that are not, fortunately, not in that position, but thinking, okay, how do I build up that vital reserve? How do I feel my best? Let's get into that part. Let's talk about, I know you talk about how the average woman gains 1.5 pounds per year during her adult life, like enough to pack on those 40 plus pounds. And look, we talk about weight. I think that society has really made that the main priority. I think most of us who are carrying extra weight are struggling with a lot of other things too. But so if we're in this position and you and I both believe it doesn't have to be that way, why do you think this happens for women?
Yeah. So, of course, every woman just about feels like they need to release some weight.
Mm.
And like you said, that's a societal thing. But the thing is, if you're carrying extra weight, that's a symptom. That's
Mhm.
a symptom that other things in your life are out of balance. That's your body telling you because your body's natural state is health.
Yeah.
Animals in the wild are not overweight.
Mhm.
Babies eat when they're hungry, stop when they're full. So naturally, your body knows what to do. But with the food system being full of crap and for so many other reasons, we aren't taking care of our bodies the way that we need to. And part of that is not exactly knowing why we're in the situation that we're in.
Yeah.
And one of the things, as we start getting in perimenopause and menopause, we're losing muscle mass,
Mhm.
first of all. You start losing muscle mass in your 30s, and it's about 0.5% per year. So over a decade, that's 5% of your muscle mass. And
Yeah.
that's starting in your 30s. So every 10 years is decreasing by about 3 to 5%, which is really serious,
Mhm.
not only for your health, for being remaining strong through midlife and beyond and not, having falls and things like that, but your muscles are a primary driver of your metabolism.
Yes.
And because muscles burn glucose all the time, day and night. That's why men have such an easier time releasing weight because they naturally have more muscle mass.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as women with the hormonal changes, your muscle mass starts to decline. And it's very much if you don't use it, you lose it type situation.
Yeah.
So we have to start finding ways of building the muscle mass back on so that we can stay strong and keep our metabolism going. And a lot of us struggle with less activity as we age. I mean, starting when you have kids, okay, because they keep you so busy. It's, it becomes difficult. And then we have our careers, and we're climbing the ladder. We're getting busier and busier, and we're juggling all these things. We're doing the majority of the work at home as well, even if we're working full time. So it gets to be harder and harder to get activity in. And then our also nutrition suffers because we're staying so busy. We're trying to just eat on the go. We're eating those convenience foods. Yo-yo dieting is another thing, because so many women have tried so many things over the years. And every time you lose and gain, your metabolism slows down a little bit more. Your body takes another hit. So by the time you're in this perimenopause, menopause age, a lot of those things are coming into play. And of course, we know the hormones, are an issue. The storing of belly fat to produce estrogen, and all these things that you always talk about. And also stress. Stress is a big one, because we're in this fight or flight. We're releasing cortisol all the time, which raises blood sugar, which causes us to store more fat.
Yeah. It's interesting when you say it. I mean, obviously, nothing is as simple as we can break it down to. However, when we recognize that the key to having, a lean, healthy body that's built for disease and to fight off disease and illness, an immune system that can function, is consistently building muscle. We don't have to have huge amounts of muscle, but we do need to have it for our lives. This is what keeps our metabolism from slowing down. And in order to have muscle, we gotta lift it. We got to sleep for it. We got to have enough protein for it, and it's got to be consistent. The way that perfect example you gave about animals, it's like if all of our efforts went into putting on healthy muscle, then our muscle helps us manage those hormones. So we don't run into the same hormonal issues when we have that in the first place.
Yeah, and our life is set up not to use our muscles. We have jobs where we sit all day, which I am a person who does. So we have to make a concentrated effort. We have remote control, we have cars, we have escalators and elevators. Everything is set up so that we have to do as little movement as possible. And so now isn't it crazy that there's escalators everywhere? And then we go to the gym and get on a stair climber.
I know.
And there's beautiful, you can walk outside no matter if you're in the city, the country, by the ocean, whatever, and we'll go to a gym and walk on the treadmill. And so part of that is really just flipping that so that you're moving your body regularly throughout the day in a natural way. Animals run and hunt and play. And like I said, babies too. Babies are never sitting still. Even when they can't walk yet, they're moving their legs, they're moving their arms, they're rolling over or crawling. Or if you've ever had a toddler, they're in motion all day long. And then somehow life trains us right out of that. So we have to get back into it.
No, you're right. That's so interesting. And how do you feel like our mindset? So obviously that really addresses how our world is set up, kind of working against it, and we can start to think about those things. But how does our mindset play a role in this? I mean, I feel like with everything you've been through, you've managed to keep that great, I get knocked down, I get up again mindset. How does our individual mindset play in our ability to be healthy, to fight illness, to feel good in menopause and perimenopause?
It's huge, because the reason that I see over and over and over again that women struggle to get healthy is they have this long to-do list and their stuff is at the bottom.
Mhm.
So taking care of everyone else, I think you alluded to that a minute ago. We're taking care of kids, we're taking care of spouses or significant others, we're working, we're taking care of the home. Sometimes we're taking care of, it could be an aging parent or family member, whatever it is. We're pouring all of our energy out.
Mhm.
And then when someone gets on a quote diet, some kind of wellness plan, they have this big list of, okay, now I have to go to the gym every day. I have to eat healthy. I have to cook every meal at home, da 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 da. And that's at the bottom of the list. And it's never going to happen. Whatever's at the bottom is the one that's going to get squeezed out till the next day. And then it gets squeezed out till Monday. And then it gets squeezed out till the new year. I call it the start again Monday syndrome.
Yes. And
And I,
a part of that start again Monday gets into, kind of starts to add on to this, like it's never going to work. It's always going to be hard. Or even I certainly hear in perimenopause and menopause, and this is something I think we're all spoon fed. Oh, you're getting older. It's just going to be harder. And I think that's kind of a baloney mindset. I really don't think it has to be. We just have to see it differently.
yeah, I agree. And I started realizing that with my son's diagnosis, like, oh my goodness, now I have this whole new huge thing I have to take care of, and I don't have time or energy to do it. So how do I get the time and energy? And
Yeah.
it has to be a shift
Yeah.
to know that you're worthy of the same love and care and time as everybody else,
Mm.
and literally putting you time on your calendar, just like you would a meeting. I have my specific days that I work out. I put it on my calendar and I treat that boundary as sacred. This is just like any other meeting or any other appointment, like a doctor's appointment. These are the days that I go to yoga or the gym or whatever it is. And these are happening ahead of if somebody asks me to help them with something. Okay, I can help you after, or maybe tomorrow when I don't have something scheduled. And that's a hard thing for women to do. We're trained from young age to be nurturers, to be caregivers, to not say no, to not set boundaries. The typical like 50s housewife was dressed in her pearls and had her husband's martini ready when he walked through the door, took his coat, and had dinner on the table. So we've been taught this over generations. And every generation, I think it gets a little better and a little better. And hopefully, we're starting to change our mindset around that so that the next generation will be even a little better. And eventually, we will treat ourselves with love and care.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you say that because I think it's been beautiful to see some of the changes, certainly in women's health and women's empowerment over the years. And it's great that we've been given this message of like, you can do it all. But I really feel like this piece that you're talking about around like prioritizing our health, loving on ourselves that way needs to become like that non-negotiable no matter what your dreams desires are, right? Because other as we know, regardless of your age, we're going to hit a point where yes, some things are changing and it's more important than ever that we've made these so solid in our lives that they don't feel like effort anymore. You agree?
Yeah, and I always say that every time you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else.
Mhm.
You said, there's the you can have it all. Well, everyone has 24 hours in a day and you need a certain amount of sleep and you are going to have work time or, taking care of others time. But you've got to build in those pieces
Yeah.
that take care of you, those non-negotiables,
Yeah.
because those are just as important as all the others. And if you find that you are constantly saying yes to everyone else, which means constantly saying no to yourself, that's out of balance. That's not a balanced, healthy life. And you will not be healthy
Yeah.
because you won't have the time.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Where does this idea of like, do you think, I think this is tied in a lot to that self-worth piece or how we even tie, I used to do this a lot, tie our productivity to our self-worth. But I know you talk about this not enoughness. So I feel like this is an appropriate time to bring that up that women experience. How do you see this show up in your life, in your clients? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm a self-proclaimed people pleaser and perfectionist.
Mm.
And, so many women fall into those categories. And it really starts early in life. It starts with messages you receive from others. It could be parents, it could be other kids at school, it could be teachers. And then as you grow up, it's, romantic relationships, bosses.
Social media.
You grab all these little pieces and you soak it in and you start to believe that that's true. And you start let's say, for example, you have parents who work all the time and they're never home. A kid will internalize that as, I'm not good enough for them to want to spend time with me.
Mm.
Or if it's parents who are really strict and really expect a lot of you, and you get an A and they kind of raise that bar every time. Well, A is good, but what if you made a perfect and it was an A plus? That kind of thing. So we always feel like we can never reach what it is we think will make us worthy, will make us loved. And we keep doing that throughout our adult lives. We keep trying to prove to everyone that we're good enough. And we strive for these outward achievements, career, accolades, a perfect house, a perfect family, whatever that looks like for you, because we always don't feel like we're enough. And that goes into that whole people pleasing. I need to do more for everybody else. And in the meantime, throw myself under the bus. So it does, the not enoughness is sort of the root of all of that.
Mhm.
And it's funny because we keep thinking we can just treat the symptoms, right? So getting on a diet, that's treating a symptom.
Yeah.
That's just thinking, okay, I'll just need to eat better and exercise. But if you don't treat the root, if you don't really get down to the nitty gritty of why am I doing this, then
Mhm.
that cycle, that start again Monday, will keep repeating itself over and over again.
Oh, I love that. Such a good point, Sarah. I hear you say that because it's like I'm always, the older I get, the more I laugh, I think, when people complain about getting older, because I'm like, oh man, there's so much wisdom as we get older, because this treating of the symptoms you're talking about is something we've done our whole lives in our, in the younger years, and it works because the body still has all that vital reserve. But this perfect storm of midlife, I think, again, is really the time when not only are we kind of running low after everything we've been through in our life, and now we're a bit more susceptible to things, and these symptoms are getting bigger, where we cannot just treat those symptoms, because like you're saying, we got to get to that root issue. And it's a root issue emotionally, as you're talking about. It's also a root issue like functionally and how our body functions. So it really is this kind of come to Jesus moment in life, where it's like, you have to deal, like, now is this time where you kind of come to the ground, that dark night of the soul with yourself, and it's time to make those changes, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, your body will send you the signals, but you
Yeah.
just have to listen. I call it a check engine light. So if you're feeling tired all the time, if you're carrying extra weight, if you're anxious a lot, if you feel stressed a lot, if you can't sleep well, if you're having extreme menopausal symptoms, that is your check engine light flashing, saying, I need you. It's treat your body as well as you would treat your car, right? You give your car regular maintenance, you fill it up with gas, you get the oil changed.
You're not
And
18
when the check
driving your
engine
parents'
light,
car who's going to take care of the check engine light. Like, you are here and you have to do it for yourself.
right, you can't just turn off the check engine light and just ignore that and think, oh, this is taking care of whatever the problem is.
Yeah.
So you got to tune in and you got to listen. Listen when your body tells you that it needs something, and do it. Agree with it. Say, yes, thank you, body. Thank you, body, for telling me that this needs attention. And like you said, when you get into that perimenopause, menopause, the screams, the little nudges get louder and louder
Not
and
just the engine
louder.
light anymore. Other things are blinking at you, aren't they? The car's
All the
squealing
lights
a
are
little.
flashing.
Yeah.
It's dinging. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it reminds me of I remember my first car actually being like, well, I wonder how long we can drive with this engine light on. And then all of a sudden the car just dies. And you're like, hi, Dad, can you help me? And we're just
Right.
not in that place anymore. Now is the time to be responsible for your engine lights, I guess.
Yeah, don't wait for that to happen. Go ahead and make it a priority now and head it off
Yeah.
before it happens. Or if you're already in the fire, just know that there are things you can do, but you just have to start doing them and start making yourself a priority so that you will.
Yes. Okay. So I feel like that's a perfect segue because I know you have a great e-guide on like revving up the metabolism on that healing piece. So can you give us a little sneak peek for women listening on some of these action steps? Like where do we start with them to do that healing, to address those engine lights, to rev up the metabolism?
Yeah, yeah. So I do. I have a free Rev Up Your Midlife Metabolism guide with a whole bunch of strategies for women perimenopause, menopause, and beyond. And it's some of the things that we've talked about today, but there's a whole bunch of other strategies in there. And if there's women out there who are looking at all this and going, oh my God, like this is a lot. Like I'm supposed to all of a sudden start strength training. I have to, change my diet and my nutrition. I've got to address my hormonal issues. I've got to reduce stress. This sounds like a lot.
Mhm.
So I would say start small,
Yeah.
one little thing. And if I could choose one thing, well, it would be really hard to just choose one.
Yeah.
If I could choose two, the first one would be walking.
Mm.
If you are not exercising at all, literally 5 or 10 minutes can start making a difference. And it not only starts burning calories, helping you build muscle, it also reduces your stress. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like
Super.
a really multi-purpose tool that's super easy to get started. I mean, literally put on your shoes and take a step outside and say, you know what? If it's 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes. If it's 10, and usually when you start going, you start feeling good. You start feeling refreshed. You feel your stress level come down. I mean, this could be at lunchtime at work.
Oh,
Just start building those in. And then the second thing would be protein.
yeah.
So many women are not eating enough or little to no protein. And we got to have it.
Yeah.
You've got to have it to build muscle. You've got to have it to stay full because not eating protein leads to all kinds of cravings because you're hungry all the time. Then you're eating too much sugar. And so things snowball out. So, nutrition wise, the first thing I would focus on is, am I getting protein at every meal?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
those are two things that are super easy. You
Yeah.
don't have to take it all on at once because if you do, it's just like that all or nothing, which always ends up nothing because it's too hard.
I think that that's a great example. I remember thinking the same. It's like if you can just pick one thing and make that your thing for the week, or even 2 weeks, if you need a little bit more time, if you make that your thing, then after a week or two, you're like, oh, okay, that's the thing now. It's already there. And then just pick a new thing from Sarah's list. Like, but I agree with you. I think those are two of the most important. I mean, you don't need any extra cardio unless you're trying to win a race other than walking for optimal health. Like walking's beautiful. And I know all of you out there listening have animals. Go walk your animals. They need to be walked. Buy yourself a big dog. It'll get you out a couple times a day.
Yeah. And, it doesn't have to be this huge, overwhelming. People think if they're going to get healthy, they have to take it all on. And that's where these boot camps and these cleanses and this, 30-day this and, 2 week that comes in. And then they think, okay, after I do this diet, this boot camp, whatever, then I'll build a healthy lifestyle.
Mm,
And it doesn't work that way because when you go all, you get exhausted and overwhelmed, and then you go back to nothing. And if
totally.
you just start building it little by little, the healthy lifestyle is the diet.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
not a It's not a concentrated 30 days.
Yeah.
It's start now and keep moving forward. It doesn't matter how fast you're moving forward. It just matters that you keep making progress.
And I think what I never understood for so long, and I mean, gosh, I was a trainer for so many years, is that, I mean, I call it like luxury body fitness. So like intense like CrossFits and intense like all great and fun. But if you don't have the foundations of like functional movement and the right nutrition, you're kind of wasting your time. Your whole in your youth, you're just drawing down on those reserves, and you hit perimenopause and you try to do those things like you're literally robbing from Peter to pay Paul in your body. You're not repairing from these things. So if we want more time, if we don't have enough time to do the basics, like we're never going to have enough time to repair from those big, more intense things. So I love that you said that. I think these are amazing tips. Do you have any more from there that you want to share? And then I don't want you to share too much more because I want everyone to go and download this freebie. I think it sounds amazing, but anything else before we, learn more about how to find you?
Well, yes, because we talked about stress and we talked about the mindset of enoughness. And another super easy thing that you can do is build in time every day to do nothing. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 20 minutes. I recommend an hour every single day. And it's something you'll have to work up to because you're going to feel guilty. You're going to feel like you're taking time away from other things. You're going to be looking at all your household chores that need to be done or work that needs to be caught up on. But I would say doing nothing is doing a lot. When
Mhm.
I was going through chemotherapy, I was laying on the couch all day long,
Mhm.
but there was a hell of a lot going on inside my body. My body was detoxing, my body was repairing itself. Same thing when you are doing nothing, you are reducing your cortisol, you are flushing out excess hormones, you're detoxing, your body is recharging. It's a recharging of your battery. So if you take an hour off, the next hour that you go into work or, doing something at home, you're going to be 10 times more effective. You're going to be more creative. Your brain is going to work faster. You're going to be in a better mood. So think of it as, okay, this is me stopping at the gas station,
Mm.
right? I need 10 minutes. I need 20 minutes, whatever, to fill myself back up so that then the rest of my day is going to be so much more full and joyful and productive.
Sarah, that was amazing advice. I think like if any woman listening could just start to implement those three things that you talked about, like again, over the next 3 to 6 weeks, like make them a part of your day every single day, I think we would see people feeling significantly different
It
because
would be huge.
yeah, I agree.
Yes,
These are massive, massive pieces. And what I always find, and I'd love to just hear your thoughts on this, but we avoid sitting or being still, whether it's avoiding yoga. A lot of my athletes don't like to do yoga, or meditating, or just being still because of the noise that comes up in our mind, right? Like you're saying, it's because of the guilty thoughts, because of the, oh, I'm not doing enough, because of that not enoughness you're saying. Those things I think that come up in the silence, those are the things we really need to be addressing. Like I think those are also engine lights, aren't they? Telling us like, not that we should be listening to that nattery, awful voice, but why is that coming there? And does it hold truth?
yeah, and we need that time to process those emotions. One
Yeah.
of the things I work with women on a lot is emotional eating.
Mm,
And a big reason that that comes up is that, and you know how a lot of people want to eat late at night
yeah.
after the house is quiet, after the work is done. And that's because feelings start coming up inevitably. And that's one reason we avoid stillness, we avoid quiet.
Yeah.
And that's another check engine light. If you're eating when you're not hungry, okay, maybe there's some things that you need to allow. And it can be uncomfortable. And like you said, we start thinking of, oh, I should be doing this and I should be doing that. But it's a time where you can receive the messages that you need to be receiving.
Yeah.
about whatever, whatever your intuition or from your higher power, whatever it is you believe, you can't ever hear the messages if you don't allow for that space. And it can guide you. There's so much intelligence that comes in midlife. It's there, but you have to allow it to come in. And in order to do that, you have to quiet the noise so that you can hear it. And then you will live to your potential. You'll start living what you're meant to live and do what you're meant to do and be able to share your true, authentic gifts with the world.
Oh, Sarah, so good. I like I said, you have such a light, you have such a beautiful way with sharing these things. I see why you've made such a big impact, and I could probably talk with you for another hour now about this, but I'm so appreciative of you being here. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to share with anyone, and tell us how we can find you?
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, the only thing I would say is, you know what, ladies, you're worth it. You're here for a reason. And that reason is not just to serve everyone else and to run yourself into the ground. So start loving yourself. And that's why my title is Women's Weight Release and Body Love, because body love is full self love. It doesn't just mean physically. And yes, if people want to connect with me, you can find me all across social media and on YouTube and on my website. Everything is under Sarah Haas Wellness.
Awesome. And check out her Boss Body podcast. I will put all the links, including the link for the e-guide on revving up the metabolism, so you can go and start some of those things, sisters. And Sarah, it's been such a pleasure. I'm super, super grateful that we've connected, that you're here, and thank you for all you shared today.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
All right, sisters, you've heard it all. You have great places to start. Go check out Sarah's stuff, follow her, and be more in your life and not just less on a scale. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you so much for joining me on the Period Whisperer podcast. If you liked this episode, take 30 seconds right now to write a review on iTunes and then reach out to me directly on Instagram at Bria_period_whisperer and message me there with a screenshot of your review. As a thank you, I will give you a customized free hormone audit to get you on your way to the best health of your life in midlife.